You're watching the Bedlam Nation conversation. I'm Mike Sherman. He's OU beat writer Jake Trotter, and we're talking about the Sooners and the NFL draft. Jake, isn't the big NFL draft story for OU that next year is the big draft story for OU?
I believe twice OU has had 3 guys go in the first round, and next year they have a chance to have 4 when you talk about quarterback Sam Bradford, if he goes, Gerald McCoy, defensive tackle, if he goes, Trent Williams and Jermaine Gresham. 4 first-round caliber talents. That doesn't even include guys like Chris Brown at running back and Brian Jackson at corner. It could really be a banner draft for OU.
Okay, Jake, but will there be a Sooner who hears his name called on day one of this draft, which starts Saturday?
I think 3 guys have a chance. You talk about Joaquin Iglesias at wide receiver. He's a guy that has the potential to be taken in the first couple of rounds, or I guess a late second-round pick. Duke Robinson's another guy who could be a late second-round pick. But those guys are probably more likely to go in day 2 in the 3rd through 5th round range. Phil Oldhall, the offensive tackle, is OU's best chance of putting someone in the draft on day 1, and he's a guy that's pretty volatile. I've heard some people say late first. I've heard some people say early 4th. So a wide range of opinion on Phil Oldhall.
Okay. What's the latest on Duke Robinson's draft prospects? You've written that he's the kind of power inside blocker that a lot of teams, particularly power running teams, like in the NFL.
Well, he's a guy that can maul people at the guard spot. And you look at the Pittsburgh Steelers, the Minnesota Vikings, teams like that like to run the ball between the tackles, Minnesota with Adrian Peterson. Duke Robinson's a guy that can really thrive there. He's not the quickest guy in the world, so the zone blocking schemes are not going to fit him as well. But as far as mashing opponents, he's a guy that has to be very attractive to teams that value the power running game.
Okay, talking about teams that value certain things, there's Joaquin Iglesias. The slot receiver, your man Wes Welker has really showed the NFL that this guy can have a place in the league. Who seems to be interested in Joaquin Iglesias? Where do you see a good fit for him?
Well, I don't know if he's necessarily a slot guy. I think he can be a number 2 possession guy and play wide receiver. He has the versatility to play in the slot. But there are a lot of teams that need wide receivers in this league. You can't get enough of them. Dallas Cowboys, for one, would need a wide receiver since they released Terrell Owens. And now really relying on Roy Williams and a cast of characters. They could use a possession guy to go along with him. The Philadelphia Eagles always seem to be in the market for wide receivers. They drafted one last year. They could be in the hunt for another one. But really anybody from the Seattle Seahawks, the Atlanta Falcons could probably use another wide receiver. There's a good half of the league that probably will draft a wide receiver in this particular draft. And Joaquin is a guy that is not flashy like some of these other guys that ran 4.3 40s, but he's great hands. And he has a chance to be a guy that can make a roster as a guy who will catch the ball over the middle, make the quick catches underneath. And, he showed the ability to break through once he catches the ball. He's a great yards after catch receiver.
Okay, Jake, any other Sooners who you think will hear name called either, I guess, on day 2?
After that, it's a little bit of a crapshoot. I mean, you have Nick Harris, the linebacker. Many people thought he was going to be a second-round pick maybe even, but he didn't do very well at the combine, at the pro day. Ran slow. I think he ran a 4.8, a 4.9. Actually, Nick Harris and Lindy Holmes were the 2 slowest defensive backs at the combine. So those are 2 guys that probably will be drafted, but if I had to pick one over the other, I think Nick will go before Lindy. Todd McShay's latest mock draft has Lindy being Mr. Irrelevant, which of course is the last pick in the entire draft. Some other guys, offensive linemen, John Cooper and Brandon Walker, they're 2 other guys that could go anywhere from 5th round to not drafted, and it just depends how people like them. Cooper probably has a better chance because of his skill set as a center. And Manny Johnson at receiver, he's been hurt basically since October of last year with different injuries. He had the elbow, he had the hamstring. He hasn't been able to run in front of scouts. I think he's a guy that, for that reason, probably won't get drafted, but definitely has a chance to be, one of the top 30 receivers. And just depends how teams see you at that point.
Okay, thanks, Jake. That's all for the Bedlam Nation conversation. But you can stay with all things OU football every day at News OK and every morning in the Oklahoman.